Good morning, everyone. Governor Pillen, Lieutenant Governor Kelly, fellow members of the Nebraska National Guard, members of the media. Welcome to the Nebraska National Guard Joint Force Headquarters, and thank you for joining us today for an announcement on an upcoming Nebraska National Guard mission that will begin in approximately a month or so. We appreciate your interest in this mission, and we look forward to answering any questions wherever that you may have following our presentation. At this time, I'd like to introduce our Governor, Governor Jim Pillen. Thank you.
Thanks, Chairman. Well, good morning, everybody. Let me just say, I'm in year 4 of the privilege of being your governor, and every time I get before you, I get goosebumps. I have so much respect and admiration for all the men and women who've answered the call to be the extraordinary public servants that you are to keep us safe. Highest calling in governments keep us safe, and so I can't ever say thank you enough. Thank you enough for what you do and for answering the call. It's incredible. I want to thank Lieutenant Governor Kelly for being here this morning. In general, thank you for all that you do. When a farm boy from Silver Creek says yes to answering the call, it's good stuff. What we're here for today is really important. Highest calling in government is keep us safe. Highest calling in government is answer the call when you're asked. We've been asked by the Chief of the National Guard Bureau, 4-star General, to step up and help. Of course, we do it the Nebraska way, and we figure out how can we do that. The long and short, there's been work being done by 10 other states, answering the call, helping keep our monuments in D.C. safe and secure and unrest under control in those areas. That's been going on roughly since the 1st of August. So we've said, yes, we're going to do our part. These troops have been there for over 120 days, and so we're working on restoring. So 10 states of roughly 2,500 troops have been on mission. We are looking and the possibility of being in that 200 range to answer the call that will assume the responsibilities of the monuments. Guard members from other states will be deployed as well, just like they have from 10 other states. The plan would be that our troops would leave roughly at the end of February, so maybe if we say 5-6 weeks from now. I think it's a big deal, right? The 250th anniversary of the greatest country in the history of civilization, and that there's going to be extraordinary numbers. We were at the archives just last week, and there's going to be extraordinary numbers of Americans coming to the Washington, D.C. to take in the monuments, to celebrate and see the Bill of Rights and see our Constitution. So making sure that our nation's capital is free of violence, it's free of crime, it's free of drugs, it's free of predatory behavior. And I think it's really an awesome thing that we will have Nebraskans that will be answering the call and play the role. This deployment continues an extraordinarily proud service that all the men and women in uniform in Nebraska do, being deployed throughout our country in times of disasters, in times of unrest, and around our country, around our world as well. So it just continues what's happened. In my 3 years, we've had troops deployed to the southern border several times. Just almost 2 years ago, just did extraordinary work to help our brothers and sisters through the incredible tornado that took place, sweeping across from northeast Lincoln all the way over into Elkhorn and Bennington areas, making an incredible difference for Nebraskans. So this is an incredibly important mission in securing our nation's capital. There's nobody more qualified than the men and women that serve in uniform. I think the other that I want to make sure of is that everybody understands, the men and women, when we have these missions, they volunteer because it's in your DNA, because you've stood up to become a public service to be able to serve. And I think the other thing that's important is that we do take time to thank all of the Nebraska men and women businesses who have National Guard men and women in their teams, that they figure out how to make it work when they're deployed. So a great shout out for that. So with that, I want to turn it back over to General Strong, and a gigantic thank you, gigantic shout out to the men and women who serve. We're very grateful. General, thank you.
Thank you, Governor Pillen. I'd now like to invite our Lieutenant Governor Joe Kelly, forward for a few words.
Thank you. It's good to be here today for this great announcement, keeping our capital safe, when many of those same Declaration of Independence signers were also involved a few years later in that Constitution and the creation of this federal district. And there was for our nation's capital, and there was a great effort made to make sure that this was everybody's capital, a federal capital, not Virginia's, not Maryland's, but a federal capital. And now Nebraskans are going to do our bit to keep that place safe and vibrant for this outstanding and exciting celebration we're going to have this summer. It emphasizes to me, again, what the governor's already talked about, the breadth of the coverage of the Nebraska National Guard, whether it's Africa or Czechoslovakia or the border or now the nation's capital, as well as all of those tornadoes and floods and other natural disasters that they respond to. They are an amazing bunch of men and women in the Nebraska National Guard. I think we can all be very, very proud of those soldiers. Thanks.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Kelly. So now just a little bit more about the mission. Last week we were contacted by our senior leadership from the National Guard Bureau in Washington, D.C., and they asked if the Nebraska National Guard had the bandwidth or the capacity to support an ongoing critical mission in Washington, D.C., due to the scheduled rotation, as indicated earlier, of the forces from the 10 other states that are currently on the ground in D.C., and they need to rotate out, other forces coming in. In assessing our organizational readiness for our upcoming missions, we had to look at when I go to the governor, he asks for my best military advice, and so we lay out criteria on our advice. So we look at what upcoming missions we have, if we have inspections, training requirements, and we determined for the governor that we do have that ability. We have the capacity and the capability within the Nebraska National Guard to support this mission, and also the question was always asked, without negatively impacting the response to our citizens in Nebraska. And the answer to that is we have the capacity. There's 4,500 troops in the Nebraska National Guard, and we're looking for about 200 to support this mission. That was the number that we were set upon. We're looking to then, we'll be focused on their training and readiness to support this mission over the next 30 days. We expect the Nebraska soldiers' primary missions will be in the areas of monument security, entry control, traffic control, roving presence patrols. The mission is expected to last 90 to 120 days. And let me tell you that force protection is the number one priority for whenever we put our troops on the ground anywhere. And in that vein of force protection, we always determine three things that are always paramount. And that is, are they trained, are they equipped, and are they led properly? And I can say on all of those fronts, they will have the training, they will have the equipment, it is an armed mission with a sidearm, they will have body armor, they will have presence patrols that will always have a four-person patrol aspect with that. And so they will also have leadership, Nebraska leadership for the command and control will also be provided to them as well. They will be part of a Task Force DC, so we will fall under that task force for operational control. Nebraska retains full control. They are under the governor's command and control ultimately, but their operational control will be over to the DC Guard to support that mission. As you know, this is not the first time that the members of our Nebraska National Guard have been called to assist local law enforcement officials or communities during times of need. In fact, we have a very long history of supporting a wide array of missions, the Lieutenant Governor alluded to, of environments across the globe and also in the past in Washington, D.C. I think this history of supporting local communities speaks to the strength of the National Guard and that we have that inherent ability and agility within our organization to support a wide array of missions like this one that's been presented in Washington, D.C. Of course, we always need to pause and remember, none of this would be possible with two primary factors: our families, the families of our Guard members, and our employers. The vast majority of our force are part-time. They're citizen soldiers, and their employers are helping ensure that their employee is trained and available in time of need. So we do want to thank our fabulous employers across the state who are hiring and employing Nebraska National Guard members. I'd also like to thank all the soldiers and their commitment to their mission, to their country, to their state, all that they do every day, in and out, to hone their skills and be always ready and always there when called upon. And this is an example of that.